Chainsaw Man chapter 164 picks up where the last one left off, and for as much chaos as we expected with Yoru versus Denji, the story once again subverts expectations by not giving us the battle that we've all been waiting for since the early parts of Chainsaw Man Part 2, where we had all this anticipation for Yoru versus Denji, and instead it forces us to wait just a little bit longer by adding more layers to the characters and setting up even more tension and drama between the cast, in particular when it comes to Mitaka and Yoru, because there is a clash with those two, ironically, inside of their own body, because their hearts are conflicted. When Denji is confronted with battling Yoru, his first response, it isn't to transform into Chainsaw Man and just start kicking butts, but instead it's him calling out for Nayuta and checking on her well-being, and it's a chance for Fujimoto to show us just more of how much Denji has grown between the time of Chainsaw Man Part 1 and Chainsaw Man Part 2. And it does make you look back at that scene a few chapters ago where we learned that Nayuta read Denji's mind and had ulterior motives, and feel a little bit heartbreaking for Denji. He's calling out for Nayuta, and the confused look on Yoru's face at first was our first real sign that something was off, because Yoru doesn't know who he's talking about at first, and her first reaction is to see if Denji is still dreaming or to see if Denji is completely in his right mind and just stalling for time. But Denji knows full well what's going on. He tells her, look, I'll fight you, but only until I know Nayuta's okay. We have to find her first, and it's one of those moments where you can still see the damage that Makima did to Denji all the way back in Chainsaw Man Part 1, and it's a testament to Makima's character that we can draw small scenes like this and still connect it back to her. So Aki was turned into the gun fiend, and Denji was forced to strike him down and kill him. He watched his power was killed right in front of him, no less by Makima, the former reincarnation of the very control devil that he is looking for now. He watched Himeno, someone who he started to get close to, lose her life. To say that Denji isn't dealing with trauma right now, it is a complete understatement. And as we saw with the falling devil, he has not fully dealt with that trauma. He's very much wounded by all of those events, and it's giving him more reason to want to cling to Nayuta's well-being. And it's the moment where Denji arrives at the scene where his home was burned down, and you see the look on his face that you start to see how much his heart is beginning to break all over again. Denji, he lost his pets in the fire. He lost Meowie, the cat who belonged to power and was his last physical connection to power. He lost that in the fire as well. Now he's looking around the debris. He's wandering aimlessly. He's searching for Nayuta. He's searching for the thing that he knows will not be there, which is a trace of Nayuta left behind, potentially even a body. The child who he was responsible for and pretty much raised her as a parent, even though he was technically like a big brother or guardian to her, she's gone right now. Yoru, being the cold and logical person that she is, she says the quiet part out loud, which is that, hey, if you don't see a body, then Nayuta must be gone. And it's a logical conclusion, since the last time Denji saw her, Nayuta was being attacked by the adults who had their weapons, and they discovered that she was a devil, so she was probably killed if you go by Yoru's logic, which in universe makes sense. Now, us as shonen fans, we know if you don't see the body, they're not dead, but that's another topic for another day. So you can tell by the look on Denji's face that he's really hoping against hope here that this isn't the case at all right now, and that right now he's on the edge and he's continuing to look for her, even when Yoru tells him, hey man, just suck it up, this is reality. And that's where you make the switch between Yoru and Mitaka, and that's why what Fujimoto did here was so well done. So what Denji needs right now, it isn't that cold, hard logic of someone like Yoru. What she's saying, it isn't factually wrong. It's actually the most logical conclusion. But right now, Denji, he needs someone to give him a little bit of hope, because hope is the only thing that is going to keep him from submerging into despair. And Mitaka being there to be the one to reach out to grab him by his hand is why it's so well done, because we know Mitaka has her own baggage. If anyone knows what Denji's going through right now, it is definitely Mitaka, because she knows a thing or two about trauma and grief, from the loss of her mother to the loss of her friend Yuko. She's even lost a part of herself and her humanity to Yoru by having to share her body with her. She's the one person gathered around there right now who has the right to reach out to touch Denji's broken soul, or rather, under most circumstances she would be that person, but not today. And it's so heartbreaking, because had they met under different circumstances, you could probably see them as a couple, but as of where the story is right now, doesn't look like that's gonna be a happy ending. So Denji basically looks at her like, dude, you're crazy, when she tells him that she can be there for him to tell her whatever he needs to, and that she will help him, because in his mind he's going basically, wait a second, didn't you just kick me in the balls? And and he asked her as much verbally. Mitaka, she's caught in between a rock and a hard place right now because she can't tell him that she's really sharing a body with the War Devil, and it makes you look back at what Makima said in part 1 of Chainsaw Man once again a lot closer, where in the very first chapter of the series she says that you can tell if someone is a devil or devil possessed or a fiend or if they're a human just by looking into the eyes. Denji wasn't able to tell the difference between Mitaka and Yoru. Granted, the guy did just wake up from getting cut into a million pieces and everyone was taking turns kicking him in the balls in the last chapter, so that might have played a huge role into it. But regardless, the conflict is here with what Mitaka wants and what Yoru wants, and that's what makes this scene work so well. She wants nothing more than to console Denji, but the devil is sharing her body wants nothing more than to kill Denji. Her two sides, they're at odds with each other. And when she tries to pivot to make Denji transform and fight her, she messes up by saying to him, hey, we can fight and then you can live a normal life afterwards. That phrase, a normal life, that carries more trauma with it on top of being the last thing he needs to hear right now. Yoshida promised him a normal life if he stopped transforming into Chainsaw Man, and now he's at the scene where he lost his pets and potentially Nayuta because he broke that agreement. That's why when Denji tells her that whenever he transforms into Chainsaw Man, everything around him becomes terrible, and it's a backhanded way, very clever mind you, of foreshadowing what the narrative is teasing us for the future. The inevitable moment where Denji transforms in front of Yoru and Mitaka and the two souls that are sharing the same body, they're gonna have a huge decision to make because only we as the audience know the real truth about Red Chainsaw Man and Black Chainsaw Man as of this point in the story. What's interesting here is that after Denji once again says that he has to find Nayuta, Fami's response is that Denji must be hungry. But what I find odd is that when Yoru was previously going, well, basically, what the hell is a Nayuta? Is this guy still dreaming? Fami, she never spoke up and she never said he's talking about control, which is something she would know because we know that Nayuta and Fami have met before. So we chalk one more up in the column for more signs that Fami is sus. We end the chapter off with Denji being asked by Mitaka to name the place, any place he wants to eat at. And when he says sushi, she tries to walk it back and say any place except for sushi. And when Mitaka gets called a bitch, it's actually kind of funny because as a guy, you've more than likely been on that scenario where at least once in your life, and if you haven't, it's going to happen at some point, where you go out on a date and the girl says that she's not a fan of whatever type of restaurant that you're going to, that you took her to, and then when she gets there she wants to have what she ordered and have a little bit of what you ordered too. Obviously Denji and Mitaka haven't gone to a restaurant, but that's the kind of vibe I got right now going into the future chapter. But what's interesting is when you look at Mitaka's face, the way her eyes are drawn and with her pouting by looking at her lips, the way that they're drawn, it makes you remember that technically this is the first date that she's had with Denji because she got her memory erased by Nayuta in the past, which makes this all the more funnier when you look at it from that perspective. But the odd thing here is that we never saw anyone from public safety. They know that Denji escaped. They raised this in the last chapter. Why didn't public safety issue a statement or anything? So the smart money would be on for them to monitor his apartment because that'll be the most logical place for him to return to. When people are hurting, when they're scared, they return back to a familiar place, even if they risk getting caught. It'll be interesting to see if that's the direction we go off on in the next chapter, or if Fujimoto follows through with the idea of giving Denji and Mitaka a date. Obviously, more than likely, our expectations be subverted, but it's a good thing we don't have to wait too long to find out.